What's going on, guys? Wanted to hop on today and talk about the trade that I took this morning on NQ. I took three trades this morning, actually. Two losses, one winner, but the one winner I was able to recoup all of the losses and come out about break even on the day. So I just wanted to walk through all of those trades and just let you guys know what I was going through today. So first and foremost, yesterday we had FOMC, and we had in the morning we had a run lower and then a run higher during FOMC, and then during the overnight session we ran out the previous day's low yesterday right here, the 11 a.m. low. We ran that out, and then at 7 a.m. we started to run higher and leave these relatively equal highs right here. So when I get to the desk this morning at about 8:45, 9 o'clock, I'm looking at where are the relatively equal levels at that I could possibly target in the after the 9:30 open, and a level that pops out to me is these relatively equal highs post 7 a.m. resting at 25,703 quarters. And then we can see that there's no relatively equal lows here from the 7 a.m. lows. So now I have my target in mind that I want to go for. So next, what I'm looking at is where is price at in relation to the 8:30 a.m. midnight open, and we can see that at the 9:30 open, we were at just above or just below the 8:30 open, but above the midnight open. So kind of an okay setup, but not an A plus setup, because an A plus setup would be if I wanted to be long, I would want to be long on a deep discount um, below both the 8:30 and midnight open. So since we were below just the 8:30 open, this setup wasn't A plus for me. So we could see at 9:30 open, we go lower and then just continue to go lower until we met the midnight open, and we traded below the midnight open, and that's when we got our rebalance. I took a trade inside of here once we got below the 8:30 open or the midnight open, and we took out these relatively equal lows right here and then moved higher. I exited the trade in this at this 10:15 candle. The reason I exited the trade at the 10:15 candle was because ES was reaching its relatively equal highs right here, while NQ was lagging behind. So I ended up exiting the trade to recoup my losses because I took one long setup, or I took two long setups in here after we swept the 25 617 and a quarter sell side liquidity. On a 5 minute chart, we can see that the 9:30 open swept sell side liquidity, failed to move higher, and then we moved lower. Then we moved lower below the midnight open, and once we got below the midnight open, we started to run through this 5 minute bearish fair value gap that was created. And then we can see again on ES swept the highs while NQ failed to do so, and I exited. And then on the 1 minute chart, I can show you my executions here. So definitely a bit front running on the two executions to start the day. So you can see that right here, I took two trades in this area right here where it's just a bit muddy in the eye. This is something that I'm going to be working on moving forward. I wanted to initially take this change in the state of delivery, but in real time, this looked like it was going to close above this cluster of down closed candles, but it ended up not doing that. So this was a premature entry that I just allowed to play out. And then we had another run on this internal sell side liquidity right here, right? We had this run, and then I took a trade once we closed above this down closed candle right here, and then that stopped me out. So, and I'm recognizing that, okay, these trades are a little bit front ran, they're a little bit offsides, but I still like these relatively equal highs right here. So now my focus shifts like, okay, well, what setup do we have after we reach below the midnight open? So once we get below the midnight open, we have this last manipulation leg lower. And mind you, on the 15-minute chart, there's a pretty large bullish SMT here where NQ ran out the sell side liquidity and ES failed to do so. So now we have this bullish SMT below midnight open, and now we're starting to get some internal price action where we have this last manipulation leg lower. I waited till we closed through this fair value gap right here, this previous bearish fair value gap, and then we also have this change in the state of delivery right here. So once we have this change in the state of delivery right here, I end up taking my long once I notice that we're going to close above the change in the state of delivery and inverse this previously bearish fair value gap. I took the long right here, stop loss below this candle low, this last fair value gap, and then I took the trade off once ES met its buy side liquidity. Let's see what time it did at 10:22. So at 10:22, I took the trade off when we had this last leg up, and then we started to move a bit lower after ES failed to, or after NQ failed to reach this buy side liquidity. I noticed that it was kind of lagging behind a bit, so I didn't even want to give it the chance to kind of run back, test lower here, because it definitely could, just because this is a straight move up. We could come back and retest this. I decided to just take the trade off, recoup the losses, move on for another day. But this is a solid setup that I'm definitely going to back test and look at in relation to how price trades at being just below the 8:30 open and being both below the 8:30 and midnight open. But overall, I really like this setup. ES had a clean setup. Same thing with ES, where we had the last leg lower, just below or just above the midnight open, but NQ is trading below the midnight open, so that's okay. Still seen as a valid manipulation leg. Had this change in the state of delivery right here, ran through these fair value gaps, and ultimately went and took out these relatively equal highs right here. So this was a good setup. Kind of a tricky day with how far away price was from the midnight open at the 9:30 open, but ultimately we ended up getting a nice leg up and then just weren't able to complete this buy model, get into the relatively equal highs. I still think this is a nice level, but with the way that price action is looking right now on NQ, where there was this large SMT and it failed, and we're rebalancing and now having some high resistance liquidity going into lunch. Just going to kind of step away and then come into tomorrow to try and finish out the week strong. But overall, good setup, a lot of teaching points today. I hope you guys are taking something from these videos. Just keep working hard every single day. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later and trade safely.